Owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Kellyan Mall, 162 Lamaha Street in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins firm.
JMK, that's the thing nobody likes. JMK, that's the thing take nobody like she. Run a coca down something, rock away, run a coca down. Run a coca down something, rock away, run a coca down. Jane and Jane, and she take nobody like she. Jane and Jane, and she take nobody like she. Run a coca down something, rock away, run a coca down. Run a coca down something, rock away, run a coca down. Jane and Jane, and she rocks her body with high. Jane and Jane, and she rocks her body with high.
Maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Sundaron?
So my relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place. Yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes. Yes. He is a friend of ours. His father was here from many years ago.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he lives next door to you.
Yes.
You know, he was able to arrange meetings and catch-ups with you at any point in the day. He claims
as a friend, yeah.
He claims that through his very close relationship with you, that he's able to get any deal done.
Well, I don't know if that's
able to change laws for investors.
But then which law has been changed for any investor?
So Sue told us that if you want to get anything done in Guyana, you need some hookups. I'm very close with the Vice President and the other officials. The Vice President and I share a very close relationship. Also, if we do the business, he'll help out no matter what. There's no one else who can help like he does. He also.
All right, enough of that. Good evening to all of you. My name is Mark Benchop. Let's get straight down to business. It's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. We should be joined in a few minutes by attorney at law, Shellon Washington, just to give us a brief rundown in terms of the legal situation there concerning the DPP and whether the DPP has that power to do what she did today. And that's the legal question here. So we will be joined by Shellon Washington, attorney at law. But before that, let us share the link. And we thank you so much for sharing the link. And those of you who do share the link, we appreciate that. Let's get straight down into business. Hope you have had a great day so far. What is it that we can begin with that's happening in Guyana? We are not going to touch on this at the moment. That's the CIOG, which is the Central Islamic Organization headed by the husband of the DPP. And some of you may ask, what's the relevance in this whole situation? There's just a question that I'm asking because as we see what's happening in Guyana and so forth and so on, and the haste in which certain cases are being dashed out, certain individuals are not being sent through the court and matters being withdrawn, and all these things, hence my reason for asking a particular question concerning the CIOG and who are some of the individuals who are funding the CIOG. And that's not accusing them of anything. I don't know who is funding them, but it's just a question that I'm asking about the CIOG, whether they're folks of questionable characters in Guyana, money launderers, drug dealers, drug lords, that is, I don't know. Hence the reason for the question as to who really are these folks who are funding the CIOG. Again, good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for sharing the link. We will get down. Lots of things happening in Guyana. As we spoke last night about this teacher, we don't know what is happening. This is an individual who is said to be a counselor, a PPP counselor. He's accused, mind you. Again, we're saying accused, not guilty. We are not saying that he's guilty of anything, just accused. Allegations leveled against him that he interfered sexually with a 14-year-old boy, a 14-year-old student of the school of which he teaches. The school that he is a teacher there. I think it's one of those schools. If you do know, just remind me of it. But let's move on. We have other things to talk about. This guy, businessman cleared of 2016 Pearl Vigilante killing. Now, here's a situation where this guy, and this. Sorry about that. I don't want to say this is ticklish, because it shouldn't be ticklish. But this is a guy that's accused of shooting to death and injuring another guy because they were in a particular community, and because they were, probably because of their ethnicity, they were deemed to be suspicious. And as a result, they committed no crime, no nothing, vigilante justice. And so this guy was actually freed of that murder. He was freed of the 2016 Pearl vigilante killing. And so that's just something else on or in the news. And we have this other guy, this PPP guy, Vishnu, what is it? Some Victor Singh, always in the habit of cyberbullying. I think he's being cornered now because the PPP has allowed him to go on with this thing for many, many years. And the police force, they do absolutely nothing. Nothing about this guy. Absolutely nothing. But, you know, they got a saying, what is it? Rope longer or something, rope longer than, you guys know what it is, man. Come on. You guys should help me out in this, right? And so all long rope get an end, right? All long rope get an end. So there's a businessman by the name of Haralal Nandlal, whoever this guy is, has decided to sue this guy, Victor Singh, for $750 million. Those of you who know this culprit know exactly what he's up to. And he does it on behalf of the PPP. Apparently, he does it on behalf of Jack Dale. Apparently, he does it on behalf of Irfan Ali, and they have done absolutely nothing with him. But all long rope get an end. All long rope certainly gets an end. And if in fact people can go after him where it hurts him more in terms of his pocket, whatever he has in his pocket, that's what we see that this guy, Haralal Nandlal, is doing. But let's move on to other stuff as we wait for our attorney to explain to us what is happening. You know, this is already in the news. This is the DPP has sent a letter to the acting Chancellor of the Judiciary and asking that the magistrate be removed from the case, the Bascom case, all because the magistrate decided to send the prosecutor to sit on the bench. In other words, contempt of court. And the prosecutor doesn't really want to accept that. We will get into a tape. We'll get into lots and lots of things. Again, we only ask that you share the link once. We're not going to ask you again. This businessman, Darwin Bess, $200,000 bail for businessman charged with conspiracy. So we're hearing all these conspiratorial charges, conspiracy charges, conspiratorial theories, all manner of things we're hearing from the PPP, especially if you don't look like them and if you don't say things that they don't appreciate, they're going to gang up against you. They're going to do whatever is necessary, but you're not going to see them doing this against a businessman who's connected to the private sector commission and all manner of things. And those who have beef, so to speak, with individuals who are connected to the PPP, they are going to definitely protect those individuals, those so-called businessmen who are connected to the PPP by any and every means necessary. They're businessmen who have gunmen driving around with carload of guns and all kind of things, threatening that they're going to hurt coalition people, all manner of things, but you don't see them being brought to the court. You don't see these so-called businessmen and all these people who are smuggling guns, smuggling all sorts of things in the country, out the country, the kind of in the pond, out the pond, kind of questionable business. Lots of them. And the PPP protect those people. But people like this guy, and you know why the PPP wouldn't protect him. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? It's pretty obvious. And so this guy, Darwin Best, you know, he doesn't probably have friends in the CIOG. He probably doesn't have friends at DPP chambers. And so, you know, he has to face the consequences, go to court. And they're not talking about exactly what the evidence is about these conspiracy charges and all kind of crap. But we know, based on what we've been hearing, that he has a beef with a big businessman, so-called, as you know, everybody's businessman these days in Guyana. And so he has a beef. And because of that beef, the PPP and the DPP decide that they're going to curry up along with the police force, the political operatives in the police force. They're going to curry up the beef and send this guy to the court. And he was a wanted bulletin was issued for him. We see what's happening. It's connected to this case, a whole bunch of jiggery pokery, that extortion, who want to extort 90 million and all manner of things. These are two reporters. I don't know whether this is among to extortion or extortion or whatever it is that they're doing. Alex Wayne extorting, was it a businessman, quote unquote businessman? This guy, Gary Eliezer. I don't know that they will be so brave enough to go to the businessman and extort money from these so-called people. I don't know. And so suddenly they want to round everybody up. Everybody up. I wish the Guyana police force would round up people who are accused of murder, such as, of course, the Paper Shorts murder, right? You're not seeing them. They're not going to go after this guy, Azardine Mohammed. Are they going to round him up and his security guards up and say, we need to question you guys about the murder of Paper Shorts allegations again? They're not going to do that. But they're going to go after these little guys, these little puny guys. Go after them, slap them with charges, put them on mugshots and all these things. Issue business wanted bulletin for this businessman who obviously he has nothing to hide. He went in. We already know that the police force is doing dirty biddings for certain individuals who pomposette or display themselves as businessmen in that country. We see what is happening, and that is why we say that it is apartheid Guyana. And this story doesn't end here. Again, the luckiest man in the world with the second wanted bulletin, Rickford Burke, is wanted by the Guyana police force. Again, Rickford Burke is wanted by the Guyana police force. And I will turn Rickford Burke over in a flash to the police. But before I do, I just have one single message to the Guyana police force, to Clifton Hicken, and all of them who are watching this show right now. I have one message for them concerning this whole big so-called conspiracy that they're talking about. I have one single message for all of them, because at the end of the day, this is how they are all behaving. All right, let's get back to our program. Wanted man, Rickford Burke. I got a call where he is. I don't see that there's any, bounty or whatever amount that they're asking for him. They're not even offering a little 500 Guyana dollars self that I could turn Rickford Burke over to these jokers right now. $500, I'll turn him over. But the point is, it's just a big joke. I don't know. Obviously, there's no evidence out there to substantiate or lead to any justification for warrants to be issued for these guys. None whatsoever, but we will deal with that shortly. Let's get straight to our attorney at law, Miss Shellen Washington. Miss Washington, good evening and welcome to Straight Up Again. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Mark. I am good, and as always, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me here tonight.
Yep, and we appreciate the fact that you are here. You are basically here so that you can break this thing down for us concerning the Director of Public Prosecution and the move to have, and we're seeing it here, that there's an application for the recusal of Magistrate Daly from the hearing of the charge of the police versus Dion Bascom. It stems from the fact that the magistrate yesterday decided to have the special prosecutor to sit on the bench for a few minutes because he refused to take a critical piece of evidence in the court. Your take on, based on what you have seen or read about this whole saga?
Yes, Mark, I've read this story. It took me a little bit by surprise that if a magistrate is asking of a prosecutor to produce certain evidence, the main purpose of everybody knows that the magistrate sits there and he or she serves his or her purpose or functions, and it should be exercised impartially. That person is sitting as an impartial arbiter of both facts and law, and it should be exercised free or independent of any control or any directions by any other person. That judgment or that exercise of that authority should be done just based on the law. And if the magistrate is asking that the prosecution or the person who's prosecuting a case to produce certain evidence, that is usually done to give that information to the person who's being prosecuted. A person who's being prosecuted has a right to know the fullness of every single piece of evidence that's being used against them to prosecute them. And even if the evidence is not being used against them, if there's evidence within the parameters or within the powers of the prosecution that exonerates that person, also the prosecutor has a right to hand over that evidence to the person who's being prosecuted or the accused. And a magistrate who sits there has a right to ensure that the trial is conducted impartial or in such a manner that it doesn't raise any evidence of or any indication that there's any form of impartiality. Now, Shalimar Ali Ak, I saw she is requesting that the Chancellor recuse the current magistrate who is presiding over this case. And I do not believe that is part of her function. As I understand her function based on Article 187 of the Constitution of Guyana, her powers are to initiate charges against any person. She prosecute matters. She recommend indictments or charges against any particular person. She advised the police force, and she also should ensure that anybody who's being prosecuted is being done so fairly or in a fair manner. However, I do not believe any of the function that is vested in the DPP or the Director of Public Prosecution is that that person should intervene and usurp the function of let's say the accused, because the accused is the one who wants to ensure that the matter is being done fairly, is being conducted fairly. It's very rare that a magistrate would be conducting a matter in a biased way. And the only way I could see her approaching the Chancellor and asking that the magistrate be accused is if there's evidence of impartiality or bias or corruption. In that type of scenario, then the magistrate needs to be removed either way. But as I understand, all the magistrate did was to find the prosecutor in contempt, which the magistrate rightfully did. If the magistrate gave an order as a prosecutor, that attorney was supposed to comply with that order. That attorney failed to comply with that order. He failed to follow the instructions of the magistrate, and rightfully the magistrate remanded him. Now, I cannot understand why Shalimar would then ask the Chancellor to remove that magistrate. There's no legal basis, as I could see. I don't see any bias or any indication of prejudice. And furthermore, this matter is being it's not even being prosecuted by the DPP as I understand. I don't believe it's the DPP is involved in the prosecution of it. So I'm not understanding what would be the legal basis for her to ask that the magistrate be recused. She has to have fundamental basis for requesting that. Is there a bias? Do you find evidence of prejudice? Do you find that there's any connection between the accused and the magistrate? And I do not believe there's any such evidence in the public domain. So for her to go and request, she skips and she goes to the Chancellor. She didn't even ask the magistrate. She could have made a motion in court that the magistrate recuse him or herself on some particular basis, but she didn't do that. She just went straight to the Chancellor, and she asked that the Chancellor intervene and remove the magistrate from presiding over the case with no legal basis. As far as I see, she has no basis. And the only thing that is left for one to conclude from the actions taken by the DPP is that she might have some sort of ulterior motive for doing that.
All right, Attorney at Law Shellen Washington is with us, breaking things down. She has outlined absolutely no legal basis, no proper grounds of which the magistrate should recuse herself in this matter. And as you have stated, there is this public perception that she has ulterior motives. And some of you are, as well as I, may suspect what those ulterior motives are. She may have vested interest in this case. and that is definitely illegal. Now, she did say, though, that she found nothing strange and there's no personal reason for the magistrate to recuse or that she has found that nobody has asked her to look into whether she found anything, whether nobody has asked her that. Her job, as you have said, is to basically to see that this matter is being prosecuted. She has appointed a legal prosecutor, special prosecutor in this matter. Do you see a conflict of interest with the special prosecutor, Mr. Mandel Moore, who is also the legal advisor to the police, attorney?
As a matter of fact, that was the first thing that actually screamed out at me, Mark, that how is it even possible? And I guess this is only in Guyana, only in the country of my birth would I see any such thing. Even in the most extreme cases where, you could look and you could try to implicate, or there might be subtle biases. I mean, here, bias is screaming out, or conflict is screaming very loud at you. You don't have to look very far, because here is the prosecutor, and he is also the legal advisor to the police force. So how is it you're going to advise them if one of their own commits an infraction of the law, and at the same time, you're going to prosecute matters on their behalf? To me, that is a textbook or garden variety conflict of interest. You cannot have the same person. If they wanted to have a special prosecutor, right, in this matter, to prosecute someone who's accused of making certain defamatory allegations against members of the police force, as I believe it would have been more appropriate to hire some sort of outside counsel to prosecute this on behalf of the police force, rather than having the advisor. I mean, this is the person that the police go to if there's an issue with somebody in the police force and they want to have directions as to whether or not they should initiate charges or suspend that particular person. They will go to him. And it's an obvious conflict to have the same person prosecute on behalf of the same body. I don't think this is something that should be happening. But then again, it's no secret that the country that I'm from is very corrupt, and I wish that this could change. This is obvious. It shouldn't be happening.
It shouldn't be happening indeed, because this is a guy whose position should be one that advises the police on whether charges should be instituted or not. He just basically gave them that legal advice on whether to charge or not. And he gave the advice on whether Bascom should be charged, right? He also gave advice against charges against those policemen as well. And hence the reason for Mr. Bascom to file private criminal charges against other policemen or not. So, yeah, sorry.
And that's the thing too, Mark, which I don't get about the laws in Guyana too. I hope at some point we could have some reformation and we could reform the laws. I do not understand how is it that somebody could disseminate information which obviously give the indication that there's corruption in the police force, and that person could be charged criminally. In every other country that I know, those charges are civil. If someone makes allegation and those allegations could be found to be truthful, those are called defamation, civil defamation. We don't have anything of that nature that we could consider criminal defamation in this country as it relates to a public figure. And I think Guyana needs to get it right. We need reformation in terms of our law. This is absurd that Bascom is being charged for a situation where he disseminated information that could easily be investigated to determine whether or not there's any truth to that information. And there's a defense in the civil sense to any charge of this nature. It's called truth justification. So if someone puts information that you consider to be defamatory, slander, or libel, in the United States, and that information could be investigated to determine whether or not that information is truthful or false. It's called truth justification. If it's truthful, if it could be determined to be truthful, and especially where a public figure is involved, I think people have a right to their freedom of speech. If I have information, or you have knowledge, or anybody have knowledge of corruption, that of a public figure, someone who is in the Guyana police force, that information needs to be brought to the forefront, and the public needs to know about it. And no one who disseminates that type of information needs to be charged criminally. Rather, if the police force member believe that the information is false, slander, or libel, then that person needs to file a civil claim against the person who has disseminated that information. But I think we have got it the wrong way. I'm not sure when our laws were drafted at the time who recommended that this type of situation go into effect, and especially the Cybercrime Act. I'm at lost here as to who drafted the Cybercrime Act in Guyana. Who came up with this brilliant idea that it's a good thing to prosecute for situations where obviously it could be investigated to determine whether that is true. It's a totally different situation where you put harmful information, like in some case I saw, I was there, I think back in 2017 in the courts, and I saw someone who was being prosecuted for posting naked pictures of someone on Facebook. In that situation, yes, it's justifiable, but whether or not that should fall under slander or defamation, that's not slander nor defamation. Neither should slander or defamation be considered a criminal act, a criminal or crime. It should be where it belongs. It's a civil claim that you could file against a person if someone disseminates false information about you into the public that could be easily investigated, and the truthfulness or falsity of that information could be easily verified. So I think we've really got it wrong there. And whoever recommended that act be implemented, somebody needs to come out and have changes done to it so that we could have things done the right way in Guyana. We need to get it right. We're in the 21st century. This is 2022, and we still have what we consider to be backwardness in Guyana. I'm disappointed. I'm seriously disappointed that this police officer is even being charged with this sort of, there's even a charge of this nature in Guyana. I was appalled. It's so draconian that I believe that something needs to be done to amend or reform that type of law.
But one of the things that I know for sure needs to be done, maybe all of the coalition supporters should hit to the streets and shut this thing down, because when they were drafting that law, and I don't want to keep repeating the same thing, that I warned Ramjatan and them that this is going to come back to haunt them, that this law is draconian, and the PPP will use it against their own supporters, meaning the coalition supporters. So said, so done. This law is bad in every aspect. It is bad. It should have no existence in 2022 at all. But I do hope that Ramjatan is sleeping comfortably. He probably is, seeing the sort of people who are being persecuted because of the recklessness of the coalition. Ramjatan, the recklessness, maintained that the law was needed. And look at what is happening. Look at the people who are being persecuted as a result of that recklessness by Ramjatan and the coalition. But we will touch on that some other time. Are you surprised, though, that the charges against the crime chief was actually discontinued by the DPP?
I am not surprised at any of the actions by the DPP, because it seems like anything that affects certain type of people, it's going to be Ms. Holly Hack is going to take a stance on that, like she's doing with Bascom. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. Some of her actions are blatant, and it's screaming out loud to the public that, listen, we need to take to the street. We need to do something, because it appears as if the DPP is taking sides. I mean, it's kind of obvious that something isn't right. But I mean, what could the people of Guyana do except go into the street, protest, and ask, we want to see justice? Is no way DPP should have discontinued the charges, against the crime chief. It's just no way. They should have allowed the charges to move forward. Again, DPP is supposed to ensure that certain types of cases are prosecuted and that they are prosecuted fairly. I mean, she does also have the power to discontinue prosecution against any person. And I think that's kind of dangerous to put that type of power into one person's hand. Because with that type of power, this is the result. She can choose,
Exactly.
she can pick and choose.
This, and that is what we're seeing, the picking and choosing, the picking and choosing. And that is what corrupts the judicial system in any country. The judiciary comes under attack because you have someone with all of that powers. Over in the United States, there's a district attorney and so forth. The system is quite different here, that one person doesn't have all of that power at all. But yet, something is wrong with Guyana. Some people are asking, why can't she be removed? She cannot be removed because it's a constitutional position, and she can only be removed if she passes away, or if she does something really, really corrupt. Outside of that, she cannot be removed. You find that to be what? Is that democracy?
I mean, Mark, I guess we could kind of blame that on the Constitution. Again, over here in the United States, we have a grand jury who determine whether or not somebody should be indicted on charges. No public prosecutor or no one person is going to have that opportunity or all of that type of power to determine what happens when there's serious charges or serious allegations alleged against a person. So, I mean, thankfully, we don't have that. So there's the possibility of corruption is lessened when you have a body of jurors, you have a grand jury making certain determination on a person's behalf.
And in the case with the DPP
one person.
In the case of the DPP chambers, one person, and that is why we're seeing the cherry picking. We're seeing the cherry picking here. Only certain people can be charged, and certain will be protected by every and any means necessary. Look, this whole scheme is not about whether the crime chief is charged or not, or whether she's protecting the crime chief or who's it, Caesar or other senior officers. There's the bigger picture, and it could possibly be that she believes that she has to protect a good family friend of hers, Azardine Mohammed. And this is the big picture. Is she really protecting Azardine Mohammed? Is she really about justice? Is she protecting the police? What exactly is happening here? And the perception is that she is doing everything possible to protect Azardine Mohammed, who is said to be a family friend of the hacks, If that is the case and she's protecting these individuals, then something is definitely wrong and something needs to be done. Now let's head back to this guy, the special prosecutor. We still don't know whether he has the fiat. We don't know if he has the proper documentation to be the special prosecutor. We don't know that as yet. But yet he bounced into court claiming that he is the special prosecutor. Yesterday, the magistrate Daly, decided that she's going to have him placed on the bench. He's trying to deny that ever happened. He's trying to deny that he was ever in contempt of court. It was pretty obvious, but I'm not the lawyer. You're the lawyer. Having read what transpired, assuming that you read what transpired, what is your take on that, please, ma'am?
I mean, unless the news information is incorrect, it seems clear to me that he was in contempt of court. The court did ask that he produce the recording of the press conference, and he turned up to court and he had no evidence of it. And the magistrate said she did adjourn the matter to give him the opportunity to be able to produce that recording. And I saw the DPP is saying that they do not have that recording in their possession, and they're not the news agency, and that the recording is not being used as part of their case that they're presenting against Bascom. But the thing is, even if that were true, the fact is the magistrate has asked that he produce that news report recording. And if the magistrate requests something, I think it's disrespectful for you to turn up to, for him, for more to turn up to court and tell the magistrate, like, I still don't have it. The magistrate did ask that request that he produce it in court. And their defense or their excuses, it's not being used as part of their evidence against Bascom. But I think the magistrate acted correctly in finding that he is in contempt, because as far as I know, I didn't read anything in the news that says he had any justifiable excuse as to why he was unable to produce it to the magistrate. Because as you know, in law, you always have an excuse, either a justifiable excuse for your delay or you're non-compliant with the court order. And if you don't have any justifiable excuse for that, then the magistrate would have acted within her right, to find that he's in contempt and remand him.
And that's exactly what happened based on what we saw and what we're reading. The thing is, the DPP might very well observe, and she is somewhat smart, but she has observed that once that video evidence is presented, that it's going to open a whole can of worms that she doesn't want to open. And it is again obvious, in my opinion, that she is protecting someone. Who is it she's trying to protect? Is it Bladam? Is it Azardine Mohammed? Is it the police? Or is it just law that she feels that she is doing what is right, when majority of the people have a different opinion? Now, let's get back to what happened to Moore. Moore is denying, that's the quote-unquote special prosecutor. He is denying that anything of that sort ever happened. And I listened to him today, and I wonder, where exactly did this guy go to law school? Seriously. And this is not attacking him personally, but he hasn't convinced me at all that he's actually a competent lawyer, much less to be a legal advisor for the police and a special prosecutor. Come on, man. Even someone now out of high school can do a better job. Let's go to something that he said. And I want you to interpret what he said for all of us, since you're the lawyer that went to a really good law school.
Good morning. My name is Mandel Moore. I'm the police legal advisor, and I'm also prosecuting the matter of the police against the Bascom. Now, what occurred on the last occasion, which is the 21st of this month, was the disclosure. Now, the police would have disclosed all the statements, all this in this matter to the court and to the defense. However, the defense had made an application for the police now to disclose a copy of the press conference that was held by the police. I indicated to the court then that I was not in possession of any press conference, any disability with any press conference. So I went to the police and I spoke to the police, and they indicated to me that they did not record the press conference done by the police, so they don't have a record of it, they don't have any copy of it. What was adjourned to yesterday morning for me to come and disclose the copy of the recordings. I came to court yesterday morning and I indicated to the court yet again that I do not have possession of any recordings. The police doesn't have it. And that's the truth. The police did not record it, and I don't have a copy of it. That press conference was recorded by the other media houses, not the police. We don't have, that was the truth. The marshal then adjourned the matter to 1 o'clock yesterday. 1 o'clock yesterday, the matter was adjourned to. Let's turn the camera, let's turn the camera for me. The matter was then adjourned to 1 o'clock yesterday for me to disclose this again. So I came back at 1 o'clock. My situation had not changed. The police don't have the disc. The marshal then instructed me to go, let the police go online and download it. Because the press conference is somewhere online. Police must go, download it, and then come and disclose it to the court and to the defense. Now, the police didn't do that. We don't have it. And that is the truth. When I came back to court at 1 o'clock, they don't have this still. The magistrate then instructed me to follow around downstairs. So I followed around downstairs. A few minutes after, I was called back upstairs, and the magistrate asked me to take an undertaking to disclose this today or be held in contempt. Well, today at 11 was the matter was adjourned for, and I don't have the list. I indicated to the court I don't have the list, the police doesn't have the list, this doesn't exist. And I also made an application for the magistrate respectfully to recuse herself from this matter. Mr. Chu, which represents the defense, he made some submissions. However, the magistrate adjourned the matter the 18th of October to consider the application. That's where we are right now. But the police, that's the
All right, several things. First, let's begin. I don't know. That's why I'm asking, which law school did this guy attend? Because he's saying that the police asked, the magistrate asked him to follow the police downstairs. That's all the magistrate. Go ahead.
Mark, the first thing, I mean, I'm not familiar with Mondale Moore. I'm not familiar with whether or not he went to Woodin Law School. I'm not familiar with whether or not he has an LLB from the University of Guyana. But just listening to him, he sounds like one of those police prosecutor that they have there. Because first of all, he's saying the magistrate asked that he produce the tape, and he just told us on this phone, on this press conference, that it's available online. So how are you telling the public it's available online, but you don't have it and you can't produce it, and the magistrate adjourned for you to bring it, but your position hasn't changed? That is, I mean, I am dumbfounded here because I'm speechless with the quality of people we are producing as a nation, and we have prosecuting cases. Because if this is the level of competency I'm seeing here, I can imagine what he's doing in front of the magistrate, and the magistrate rightfully, if she did find him in contempt, she did so rightfully. Because if you're telling us that this recording is available online, you just provided the answer of where it is, and that you could very well find it and produce it to the court. The same level of skill that anyone has to go and search and find the recording online, you have it too, and you could pull it up and produce it to the court. And I believe that if that recording is produced to the court, maybe it's going to expose something. But what the judge should have done is give them what the magistrate should have done is give them a final opportunity and said if they don't produce it, he's going to dismiss, or have the defense make a motion to dismiss. Because if there's evidence that tends to exonerate the accused, he's entitled to that evidence. The prosecution must turn that evidence over to him. If there's anything available to exonerate him, it's the prosecutor's onus or obligation, if they have it in their possession, because it's their press conference. Why wouldn't they have it in their possession? You see the way he's recording? There's a phone that is being used for him to do this press conference, because I heard him saying turn the phone. So the police officer must have used a phone or whatever they use to record. There must be a recording somewhere, and they do have it in their possession, and they must produce it. He just disclosed that it's available. So why couldn't he produce it to the magistrate? I think the magistrate did the right thing. But what the magistrate should give is one final opportunity and one final warning, and tell them that she's going to dismiss. If they fail to produce this evidence, she's going to dismiss this matter. That's what should happen.
I guess that is what they sensed when they turned up today with everyone in court. You see all those policemen. There's no crime happening in Guyana, but they got all these senior ranks. He's surrounded by all these senior ranks, waste of taxpayers' money, because nobody wants to hurt this little guy.
Mark, which law school did he graduate from?
IFLOT, because Guyana is getting a law school right now. Probably he went to IFLOT Law School. And, these are things that freedom of speech that we are entitled to in the United States of America. These guys are ticklish because their bumps raise and they say that they suffer from infliction of emotional distress, right? Because of utterances people make on social media. They should know that we are entitled to that under the Constitution of the United States of America. If they don't like it, too bad. Maybe not in Guyana, but in America, we are entitled to this sort of freedom of expression.
It's called part of having a democracy, a democratic society.
The mockery. But isn't it kind of like hilarious that he said that the magistrate asked him to follow the magistrate didn't place him in detention or nothing. The magistrate, and plus, he spent a couple of years in Trinidad, and the boy have a Trini accent too. Oh gosh, right? That's another thing that's very comical. But of course, this is a serious show. He said that the magistrate asked him to follow the police. Follow the police for what? And to do what? He didn't ask. As a special prosecutor, as a lawyer, do you think I'm going to allow a magistrate to say, hey, Bencham, get up and follow the police? There got to be a reason. Why am I following the police? I'm just going to get up just like that. Don't you find that a bit strange of him?
It doesn't make any sense. You're remanded. Why would she instruct that you follow the police unless you're remanded? You're not free to go wherever you choose to. I mean, that's why I'm thinking, I'm not sure which school he did, in fact, went to, but just listening to this Mandel Moore, I'm really concerned as to the people that they're hiring to advise the Guyana police force.
So, and he worked at the DPP chambers as well. Let's go back in, Miss Washington. Let's have, for those who may have missed it, let's go back right again. Operator, let's go.
Good morning. My name is Mandel Moore. I'm the police legal advisor, and I'm also prosecuting the matter of the police against the Bascom. Now, what occurred on the last occasion, which is the 21st of this month, was for disclosure. Now, the police will have disclosed all the statements, all this in this matter to the court and to the defense. However, the defense has made an application for the police now to disclose a copy of the press conference that was held by the police. I indicated to the court then that I was not in possession of any press conference, any disagreement with any press conference. So I went to the police and I spoke to the police, and they indicated to me that they did not record the press conference done by the police, so they don't have a record of it, they don't have any copy of it. The matter was adjourned to yesterday morning for me to come and disclose the copy of the recordings. I came to court yesterday morning and I indicated to the court yet again that I do not have possession of any recordings. The police doesn't have it. And that's the truth. The police did not record it, and I don't have a copy of it. That press conference was recorded by the other media houses, not the police. We don't have, that was the truth. The marshal then adjourned the matter to 1 o'clock yesterday. 1 o'clock yesterday, the matter was adjourned to. Let's turn the camera to see what's. Let's turn the camera from the matter was then adjourned to 1 o'clock yesterday for me to disclose this again. So I came back at 1 o'clock. My situation had not changed. The police don't have the disc. The marshal instructed me to go, let the police go online and download it. Because the press conference is somewhere online. Police must go, download it, and then come and disclose it to the court and to the defense. Now, the police didn't do that. We don't have it. And that is the truth. I came back to the court at 1 o'clock. I don't have the disc.
Let me say this to you, Miss Washington. You're the legal analyst here. That the police force, they had 1 hour which they had to prepare for this press conference. They issued a press release to that effect. You're telling me they have 2 public relations officers who they took those officers into court today, Stan Govaya and Mark Ramotar. I don't know why they took them, but obviously last evening I said that they were going to take them to say that they did not do any recordings. Were I the commissioner of police, but I'm not, of course, and I'm not like the commissioner of police, mind you, so those guys would have been fired. The police force has a department that does specifically recordings. Every recording they do, they go at protests, they go everywhere, they record people. They record Aubrey Norton when he is on the East Coast, they record other opposition folks wherever they are. They record these programs as well. You're telling me all of a sudden they expect us to believe that they have no recording of this particular press conference in question? A press conference that they said that they had no time of which they could record it? All of these guys in the PR department should be fired with immediate effect. Now, I want Mandel Moore and I want the acting commissioner of police, the crime chief, and all of them who are saying that there's no recording of that press conference. I want them to take a lie detector test. And I will put my head on the block that they do have a recording, but because of certain reasons, particular reason that they know a can of worm will be opened up in this case, were they to present that press conference. And now the press conference by law has to be, and they know that, It has to be issued by the individual who did the recording. They cannot take a copy from social media or wherever and present it as evidence. It's going to be struck out. It cannot be accepted as evidence. It has to be coming directly from the Guyana Police Force, and that is their reason for saying they have no copy, when in fact they could possibly very well have a copy. But I want them to take a lie detector test on that. They'll all fail that test.
Well, Mark, there's what is called rules of evidence, and there's ways of getting information before the court, even if it's not by the originator or the person who him or herself recorded it, but it was in this instance, it would be from the person who actually made the statement. So even if the police didn't record it, the person who actually made the statement could testify to the truthfulness of that recording. And there'll be ways for the attorney, defense attorney, or even the prosecutor to get that piece of evidence in before the court. And, you know, he said something very profound that lingers in my mind. He mentioned that it's with other news reporting agency. Now, even if it's with other news reporting agency, the fact is, he just mentioned to the court, he just told the magistrate that he knows where it is. And the fact is, if he knows where it is, in the United States, we have what is called subpoena. We can subpoena records. We could subpoena any document from any place, and they have to produce it to us. And we have the business rule exception. I know Guyana is not that advanced, and they probably don't have the business rule exception, because when we did rules of evidence in law school, it's kind of different from what I'm used to practicing before the courts in the United States. But there are ways in which he could, even if he doesn't want to produce it from the police force, he can take it from the other news agencies that he just mentioned in his press conference, and they could request it by letter, because Guyana doesn't, I don't think we utilize or make use of subpoenas like we do in the US, but they do written requests to different companies, especially it's coming from a prosecutor. He can request that evidence from the news agency if they really wanted to produce it to the court, if they really wanted to comply with the defendant's request that it be released. Because I'm pretty sure even if the defendant did request from the news agency that they release that, they probably wouldn't. But if the police, if the prosecutor requested that it should be released, then in that case, it probably would be released immediately. And then the person who actually made the statement, that's a way for that person to testify regarding the contents of that recording and get it into evidence, because those are words spoken directly from whoever it was that did the conducted the press conference. And I'm not sure what happened to Mark there, but yes. So I'm saying in this instance, I don't believe
One second, please. I am still here. I'm trying to get something so that I can hear it for our listeners here this evening. But this whole diggery-pokery that we're seeing here playing out, how much of an injustice is it to the individual who is being accused of a frivolous charge of so-called cyberbullying and some crap, and this happens to be Mr. Bascom? How much of an injustice is this to Mr. Bascom?
I believe, Mark, if this recording is going to offer evidence to help to exonerate Mr. Bascom, I think it's a grave injustice, because the prosecution, as I said earlier during this conversation, they have the responsibility of handing over any evidence that they have in their possession that might be helpful, or it may in some way exonerate an accused person. And if they refuse to hand over that evidence, I think then the next step would be for the magistrate to just dismiss the entire claim. Because first of all, cyberbullying. Why is cyberbullying in the form of defamation even a crime in Guyana? Why? I'm trying to figure out who even taught. I mean, I heard Mark said earlier, he mentioned a name earlier, but I'm like, why is this even a crime? And I think it's a serious injustice to have someone brought before the court on charges that involves basically defamation or slander that they're claiming. And then again, like I said, there is a defense to that, which is truth justification. So if Bascom could prove that the information that he posted online is truthful, it could be investigated and it could be shown, and that will exonerate him. And if the police conference is in some way producing information that would help to exonerate him, the police need to hand over that recording. They need to produce it in court. They need to do as the magistrate requests. Or if they don't produce that information, then I think our defense attorney, based on their failure to produce this evidence, should make some sort of motion. But then again, I'm restricted when it comes to motion as to the types of motion they're allowed to in Guyana, because I know the laws has been reformed a little bit from the time I was admitted to now, and I don't frequently practice before the courts in Guyana in criminal cases, but I do know that there are different types of motions that can easily be made if a person, if there's evidence that defense know that will exonerate this client, and the prosecutor is refusing to turn that evidence over. Maybe they could be a motion to quash the charges, quash the prosecution charges against the accused. There's, like I said, different types of motions in Guyana, which Mr. Bascom's attorney could make use of. As I understand, he has the best, he's represented by Mr. Hughes. So Mr. Hughes will coin up or come up with some sort of motion in this instance. Because I understand a motion was filed for the evidence to be turned over, but the prosecutor is refusing to turn this evidence over. And now we see it's going to this level where Shalimar is saying she wants the magistrate to be replaced with some other magistrate, I guess some sort of magistrate she believes will give her the outcome that she expects. Because I don't see any type of bias or prejudice in the way this matter is being prosecuted by the current magistrate. And the magistrate has to perform his or her duties without favor, without fear or favor. So I do not understand, if the magistrate also took an oath to dispense of his or her duties without fear or favor, why is Miss Shalimar Haliat getting involved in this and trying to tell the Chancellor to reassign this matter? This matter shouldn't even be brought in the first place.
And let us assume now, of course, by now the Chancellor of the Judiciary, the acting Chancellor of the Judiciary, would have received that letter by now, Honorable Janet Cummings Edwards. What is your take, your opinion, that is, on her reaction to this frivolous recommendation by the DPP?
Use the word frivolous, and that's exactly the way I see this, because first of all, as I've been stressing from the get-go, Mark, I believe the charges are frivolous. I believe the statute on which the charges are based, it's draconian, and it needs to be it needs to be redrafted. They need to appeal, repeal, amend, whatever it is that they do down there. They need to take care of that. And so when this comes before the Honorable Justice Janet Cummings Edward, I think it might be something that she might find laughable, because I don't see how Justice Cummings Edward could take that letter any serious to reassign this case when there's no evidence whatsoever of any bias, any impartiality, or any grounds upon which she could reassign it. She has to have grounds. A magistrate cannot. It's just like here in the United States. A judge can't just be recused because you look at the judge and say, I don't like you, or I don't like the way you're dealing with my case. You cannot remove a judge or a magistrate that easily. You must find that there are sufficient grounds for that magistrate or judge to be removed. And I do not believe in that letter, based on what I've read from the media. There's sufficient grounds mentioned there for Justice Cummings Edward to take that letter seriously. I think what should happen is the Honorable Chancellor should just write to the DPP and tell her she doesn't find sufficient justification or any sufficient grounds to reassign the matter. A matter just can't be reassigned because the DPP doesn't like the magistrate, or she finds that the magistrate is not acting in a way she wants the magistrate to act. The magistrate is not working for the DPP. The magistrate is not working for anyone except for the people that she is there to ensure that the matter is conducted in an impartial manner that is not biased, that is not prejudicial to the rights of any citizen, whether it's the citizen who the matter is being prosecuted on behalf of or the citizen who is being prosecuted. And I think I do not find anything that would rise to the level of bias or prejudice or anything that would cause the Honorable Chancellor to say, well, the magistrate should be removed. And I think that when she looks at that letter, that should be the conclusion that she would come to, unless there's something in that letter, Mark, that I don't know and that was not mentioned in the news or in the media. Then I would say the Honorable Chancellor would rightfully deny the DPP's request to reassign that matter to a different magistrate, because it would be pointless at any point. At any rate, the new magistrate would have to become familiar because that matter has already started. Prosecutor has already started. And to reassign to a new magistrate, the magistrate would have to become familiar with the entire case from beginning to end. The magistrate would have to review all of the evidence all over again, and it would further delay the prosecution of this matter. And as you know, any defendant has a right to a speedy trial. And that's been the rule from day one. From the time I've learned criminal law, I've studied criminal law, that has always been the rule, that a defendant has a right to a speedy trial. And to go back and set that defendant back because you don't like the magistrate, DPP doesn't like the magistrate, or DPP doesn't like something that the magistrate did, even though there's no indication of a bias or prejudice, that would be wrong, because that will be denying Bascom of his rights to a speedy trial. And therefore, the Chancellor should rightfully deny Shalimir Haq Ali's request.
Well said indeed. We're yet to hear, because the matter comes back sometime next month, maybe around the 18th, I believe. How does this make you feel? All this that we're seeing stemming from allegations of corruption and cover up in a murder probe that alleged to involve a businessman in Guyana who is said to be connected to the DPP and her family and so forth. How does this make you feel about the justice system and the police in Guyana?
I mean, Mark, to be honest, this is one of the main reasons why I don't live in Guyana, because of that same corrupt sort of system. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it then, and I can't stand it now. I love Guyana dearly, but because of the corrupt practices there, I find it really difficult to even want to live under conditions like that. I think it's disgraceful, first of all, that you have one person in control of making decisions to either prosecute or to terminate prosecution in Guyana. We need to have that change. The Constitution needs to change to allow for a body of people. Like here, we have a grand jury that determines whether or not to proceed with an indictment against a person on certain charges. I mean, we have preliminary inquiries, but if the DPP still have the power to either decide, well, I'm going to stop a prosecution or I'm going to move the prosecution somewhere else. If a DPP has all of that power to control, what does it say about our society? They need to remove that power from any one person, or they could just really revise the Constitution, amend the Constitution to take away some of the powers of Shalimar. Well, not her, but whoever is sitting in that position. And that person should understand that if you are personally connected to any case that is being prosecuted, you ought to recuse yourself from dealing with the matter. If Shalimar is connected to Muhammad or in any way connected to any of the persons involved in this killing, she needs to recuse herself and not be involved. The very appearance of prejudice or bias, it's just distasteful, and it lends to the conclusion that Guyana just have a really, really corrupt society, because we don't know what her motive is. Because I've read I've read the news. I've read what she sent the letter. I haven't seen the letter myself, the entire letter, but I've read what was said to the chancellor, and there seems to be no basis for her to ask that the magistrate be recused or for this matter to be reassigned. Reassigned to who? Does that mean she now gets the opportunity to select the magistrate who this matter gets sent to so that she'll have the outcome, an expected outcome? That's just not what should be happening as it relates to the judicial system. And the judicial system is failing the people of Guyana, has been failing for many years because of people like Ms. Shalimar Ali. It's been failing because of people like her. You give the impression that you have this power and you're going to use it whether or not it should be exercised or not. Your job is to ensure fairness. Now tell me, where in this entire instance is she doing something to ensure a fair outcome? There's nothing here because there's no indication that the magistrate did anything wrong. The magistrate asked more. She requested that he produce something. He failed to produce it. She remanded him. She found him in contempt, rightfully so, because a motion was made by the defense attorney. He failed to comply with that motion. Now, I personally feel that the system in Guyana should be reformed, the laws should be reformed, and we should remove the power from any one person. The DPP, yes, they should have the power to determine who to prosecute and how to prosecute, how to conduct their prosecution. But as it relates to being able to make a request of this nature, I mean, I haven't seen it in Article 187. There's nowhere in Article 187 in the Constitution that says that the DPP has the right to reassign a magistrate or reassign a case. As far as I know, reassigning a case is done on motion. And it's only done in rare cases where you find that there's some sort of prejudice or bias.
And it's got to be on reasonable grounds. In this case, it doesn't. And you've made a good point, Attorney at Law. Thank you so much for breaking that down. We're not done yet this evening. We still have a few minutes, and we thank you so much for being here with us to explain from a legal standpoint. But you did make a valid point that what sort of interest Ms. Shalimar Haq has in this case. She is the DPP. Is she a friend, a family friend of the Mohammeds? And if so, why isn't she recusing herself? Why did she appoint a special prosecutor in this particular case? Why did she withdraw or withdrew the charges, the private cybercrime charges against the crime chief, if in fact she is connected to the Mohammeds family? Conflict of interest there. Good point. Conflict of interest there, if it is true. Conflict of interest there. But here is what I want us to do for a few minutes. All of you, we thank you for staying up some extra minutes with us. We want something, and we hope that the Guyana Police Force can do this recording. Since Mr. Mandel Moore, this attorney who spent a couple of years in Trinidad and has a Trinidadian accent, probably doesn't even know what he's talking about from a legal standpoint, this would be of interest to him. Maybe he can just take this straight over. Let them click their record button, because if they don't have it, guess what? Here it is. We have it. And we will play a few minutes of this so that the people can hear exactly and they have a better understanding as to what's happening and why is it that Mandel Moore, the DPP, and other members of the Guyana Police Force and maybe other folks do not want this press conference to be aired. They just do not want it to be aired for obvious reasons. Let's go straight to that press conference that they are hiding. They're now saying that they haven't recorded it. On the left, you see the acting commissioner is looking on the left. That is Mr. Stan Govaya. Now let's look at all the recordings, all the videotapes, the cameras, and so forth. And if you have a press conference being held and you see the public relations officer, one of the public relations officers standing there with recording device and so forth in his hands, should have that, and all of the other devices there, you're telling me that you did not record anything? Now let's look and let's hear what they had to say at that press conference. There he is, Mr. Stan Govaya, the guy in the dread. Stan Govaya, standing there, his phone in his hand. No recording? None whatsoever? Look at all the recorders on the desk. Of course, some of them are from TV stations and radio stations and so forth. You're telling me none of them had the time to record anything here at all? Nothing at all? Your take while we wait for them to come up with a press conference. Miss Washington? Nothing at
Yes,
all? Look at what's happening there. But yet they want to tell us there was nothing recorded?
it was absolutely recorded.
Look, you see the crime chief is signaling to one of the reporters there. He has a notepad in his hand.
Please note that some of what you're seeing and hearing has explicit language, so would like to have you caution if this is going live, caution some of the viewers, but it is necessary for what the ACLU is about to do in its presentation.
Look, the laptops, all of the devices there. That guy is the public relations guy. They're all setting up. They had time to set up. And you're telling me that, look, and there is the record button. They have a projector there. You mean they have a projector? They have everything and nothing that they recorded? Something is fishy about this here. And Mr. Mandel Moore, you've got to come forward. You've got to be straight up. Something is fishy about this thing. There seems to be a diabolical conspiracy to go after Bascom so that they can discredit him and save their friends in high places. Let's hear what
But
they
in this day and age, it's just not even possible that this press conference would have occurred without it being recorded. It's just not possible. So, I mean, what Mr. Moore was representing, we know that's false.
So they had sufficient time for all the recordings, for their own recordings. You see that someone is one of the PR guy is showing the crime chief how to operate the projector. So
Right.
now, if you have the projector,
Good evening, Commissioner of Police, senior officers from the police force, members of the media, thank you for coming. This evening, we are here to debunk the false allegations made by Sergeant Dion Bascom. And let me go right into the presentation. So the Governor Dion Bascom alleges that Rwanda Muslims was put in as suspect for more than
okay, there's a reason why I pause it there. You see the projector, you see the camera, you see everything there. Everything is there. And you're telling me the police force, they have this with bare-faced attitude to have their legal advisor to go to court to say nothing in this press conference was recorded? Perjury. I notice Patricia Botchway and others saying perjury. These guys should be jailed if they're found to be lying. And there is sufficient evidence to substantiate the people's perception that they are lying. You're laughing. Go ahead, Ms. Washington.
I mean, the lie is coming from Moore, obviously. So it's clear because look at all the recording. And he went in court to the magistrate. I think this is why the magistrate acted in the manner that she did and found that he was in contempt. Because the magistrate is very well aware that this must have been recorded. And the thing is, Mark, you know, to blatantly lie to the court, I mean, he's not testifying, so there's no perjury. So the magistrate can't find the attorney who's prosecuting it, you know, to have a perjured testimony or anything like that. It has to be one of the police or one of the witnesses who will go on the witness stand and lie. But she could very well find the prosecutor in contempt for failing to produce this evidence where a motion was previously filed. I mean, it's blatant. It's blatant. This is why I'm so upset, though, Mark, with the law, the cyberbullying law. Like, why is this even a law? Because what the statement or what the things that Bascom said has nothing to do with a crime. It has nothing to do with a crime. How is this a crime in Guyana?
Yeah, and look at this from this standpoint. Look at the big screen on the right side. It shows the entire press conference. Right now, you see the crime chief sitting there on the right. You see the acting commissioner on the left. Look straight on that video on the right, that screen on the right. That is the press conference being live streamed right there at police headquarters. And there is a record, but it simply means that it's being recorded. How could they deny this? How could they deny that they've ever recorded this press conference, Miss Washington? What's happening here? How could we ever trust? How could we ever trust the Guyana Police Force? How could we ever trust the legal advisor to the Guyana Police Force when he advised that certain individuals be charged or not? How could we trust them ever again?
We can't, Mark. We can't, because I mean, it's a blatant lie at the highest level. He goes there and he intentionally tries to mislead the honorable court. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that for an attorney who's supposed to be an officer of the court to go before the magistrate, disrespect the magistrate, and willfully tries to mislead the court, when the court very well knows that it's not even possible that they would have held that press conference without recording it. So that's why I said, Mark, hence my statement that the magistrate acted correctly by remanding him for contempt, because that was a blatant lie. So when Ms. Shalimar now goes and say, well, she wants the magistrate removed, no, that action, that conduct of the DPP is incorrect. And there's no way the Honorable Chancellor should even consider granting that application or consider removing this case to any other magistrate, because there it is, blatantly in front of our face. The police is recording the press conference, and they went to the court and falsely represented to the magistrate that it was not recorded and they don't have a recording of it. That's a false representation at the highest level to the honorable court. And that shouldn't be. And this is why we cannot trust the police. We cannot trust the special prosecutor. We cannot trust the DPP, because they're all a bundle of corrupt people. And this is why it's always dangerous to put too much power in one person's hand.
And this is what we're seeing. That's the perception that they are being corrupt in this particular matter. They're obviously out to hide something. They're out to shield. But even if you're having a press conference via Zoom, these public relations guys should know that even Zoom meetings, you press the record button, you record it. And this is a police force that is saying that they haven't recorded this particular press conference, a main press conference, an important press conference where you have a whistleblower, and they're responding to this whistleblower. On the right side of the screen, we see that big screen there. We're seeing the entire media operatives who are there, including the crime chief, sitting all the way up front alongside the acting top cop. And then they want us to believe that there is no recording, that they made no recording. Something is fishy. And because of this, the people of Guyana should never trust the Guyana Police Force at all. Now let's continue to listen, and we may come into some more. Look at that camera all the way on top there. That camera right there that we're seeing, and you see it says at the bottom there, Guyana Police Force. It has at the bottom, it simply means the bottom right, that they are recording this press conference right there. At that very time, it was being recorded. All of the recording devices are right there to ensure that it happens. But let's continue for a minute.
That he was supposed to be killed the day before the murder or misconduct. However,
mind you, you notice the camera moved from there to the screen, and from the screen back to the crime chief. Again, another piece of evidence that a police officer, a policeman or woman, or the PR person could have been Mark Ramatar, but we know that it probably wasn't Stan Govaya. It could have been that they were the ones moving the camera around. And now when you have a camera moving around like that, you have to press the record button. Something again is wrong. Let's hear what the crime chief has to say.
what is important to note is the Guyana police force wishes to submit that it was logical to the lawyer who made the claims that Randall Buffett was one of the suspects captured on the CCTV footage who opened fire on the unrecorded for witness. Connor also said that he has information that Mark Richmond was the driver of the getaway car. The Bascom's claims are malicious and untrue. And what the Guyana Police Force has also sought to do is to provide evidence. And this is a WhatsApp conversation between the lawyer for Roger Khan and the police. Roger Khan, through his attorney at law, and this is the facts, Roger Khan, through his attorney at law, provided the information to the police on the 1st of April 2021 via WhatsApp at 1800 hours and sent the telephone numbers for Randall Buffett and Mark Richmond. He also sent pictures of Randall Buffett and that of several men in uniform of the WhatsApp information here. We're giving you credible information, we're giving you evidence to support our position. So the Guyana Police Force, the Criminal Investigation Department, investigators did not take the information at face value. What was done is that checks were made at the prison, since the last information that was fed to the police was that Randall Buffett may or may not be in prison. A senior prison official indicated that he was no longer in prison as Randall Buffett. But what he further ventured out to say is that there's information or chatter from prisoners that one of the men in the video footage obtained at the crime scene appeared.
We don't want to hear all of that. So we'll, if Lemon can just fast forward that video, please, and let's go to something else. Thank you. Lemon?
And it's important for us as we go forward to regain that trust based on perception of data. And this is necessary. I was saying at the helm of the force, I'm transforming this force into a more contemporary police force. We are being open and we can deal with members of the public one-on-one.
Ms. Washington, what sort of trust is he talking about when they're obviously lying to the public, lying to the court, as we can see that there is no plausible reason why they did not record this particular press conference. We do not believe that. But here is it, the acting top cop is talking about the confidence of the public and all manner of things. Your take, please.
I do not think the public should have any confidence whatsoever in the Guyana Police Force, especially where it's blatant here that we have evidence that this was recorded. And there's so many other instances, Mark, where it proves over and over, we've seen that the public should not have any confidence whatsoever in the Guyana Police Force because of the level of corruption and corrupt practices that we've seen over the years, extrajudicial killing, police involved in criminal activities and it's being covered up, or even where police assist people who have committed crime and try to cover up because money is involved. I don't think the public should have any confidence unless that police force is reformed. And we have to find ways to teach and to train police officers from the very beginning how to avoid corrupt practices. And I think one of the reasons why the force is so corrupt too, Mark, is because of financial constraint. The way they pay these police officers, even at the top level, it's very shameful. And a lot of times they take bribes, they take money to dispense of their function in a corrupt way. So I think if we could find a way as a people to reform the force, increase the salary to a level where it's comfortable, I think most of the corruption could be stamped out. It wouldn't be stamped out completely because there's just no way, as long as they're bad people, there will be corruption. So I don't know what type of confidence he's referring to, but I don't think anyone should have any confidence whatsoever in the Guyana Police Force until they learn how to dispense of their job independent and free of any corruption, any corrupt practices, or any other interfering influences.
All right, and so as we look to wrap up tonight's program, we go right back to that big screen and the camera there for the police, and they're recording it, and the camera on top, and then they have the what is it, the projector, and all manner of things. Every single thing is right there. I hope the magistrate is watching. I hope the acting chancellor and even the acting chief justice is watching. And maybe I hope they are watching, sorry. And I do hope that folks outside of Guyana who have an interest in this Bascom situation, some of whom I'm told met with Mr. Bascom. Mr. Bascom has since denied that he has met with law enforcement officers from a particular agency here in the United States. They have an interest, and I hope that they are watching, and that these officers who are involved in this particular case and alleged cover-up of a murder, that if they are recipients of U.S. visa or visas, that the possibility of targeting them might be right now, including the DPP and the special prosecutor in this case. I want all of them to take a lie detector test. Every single one of them to take a lie detector test. But before we get to our closing remarks, though, Ms. Washington, how do you feel talking about trust for the Guyana police force? These are a polygraph test taken not long ago, and senior officers, if you see here, and I know who all these senior officers are. One says here, failed examination, significant concern. You see the big red sign there, significant concern. Examinee lied and withhold information concerning his direct or indirect involvement in criminal activity and profiting from illegal activities. Another senior officer, and they're asking, please see a report. I do have all of these reports. How do you feel when you see that senior officers of the Guyana Police Force have failed in this manner their polygraph test, especially whether concerning direct or indirect involvement in criminal activity and profiting from illegal activities? How does that make you feel, Miss Washington?
mean, Mark, I feel disappointed, absolutely disappointed. And like I said earlier, this is one of the reasons why I could not deal with the corruption in Guyana, because you have it with the people that you should trust, that the people who are there to protect the society, to protect the public. You have those very people engaging in corrupt practices. And as I said earlier, the police force needs reformation. One of the things that needs to be done ASAP is that they need to increase the salary of these police officers, because a lot of police officers on every single level, as far as I know, and as long as I could remember, even the time I was in Guyana, money was always the factor. It was always, I could commit a crime and I could pay my way out of that crime, and that would be fine in Guyana. You could commit any crime in Guyana as long as you had money, and you will pay your way out, even at the top of levels. And I think it's very sad. It's unfortunate that in this day and age where everything is being exposed, that the Guyana police force would take it for granted that they could still carry out these type of deceptive practices and lie to the public and try to believe that they could deceive the public in this time. They can't, because look, the prosecutor told the court that this press conference was not recorded, and now it's exposed. And they're taking the polygraph test, or the lie detector test, and it's showing that they are being deceptive. And I mean, it's been known. Even though I feel disappointed, I feel let down that the police are not really there to protect the public, but a lot of times they're there for their own ulterior motive. Because, as you know, if you're in certain top levels in the police force, there's a certain level of power and authority that you have. So with that great power comes great responsibility, and it also comes the opportunity to go out there and to do criminal things to make extra money, because the job doesn't really pay. We all know this. What it does, it gives you power. And that type of power that you have you could take bribes, you could engage in criminal activities just like the regular person. So they're really not for the Guyanese people. They're really not protecting them. And I think, Mark, at some point, it has to change. It has to change.
It has to change indeed. 35 minutes after 10 o'clock, Attorney at Law Shellen Washington with us, our legal analyst this evening. We have what we believe to be the evidence that this press conference by the police was actually recorded by the police. And the evidence is quite clear. We weren't born yesterday, neither have we attended IFLOT primary, secondary, or IFLOT university. We are way smarter than that. And look, the evidence, and we believe this is the evidence. If the court wants a copy of this videotape that we got live from the police press conference, of course, they would have used Zoom as well, I believe. It is recorded via Zoom, all manner of things, and they cannot get their way out of this at all. We are willing to give a copy of this tape. We are willing to hand a copy of this tape over to any court at any time, because we do believe that this is important in ensuring that Bascom gets justice. And if this forms part of the evidence, well, this should not be excluded, as we are seeing the police would like to exclude this. As we are seeing also, there's this perception that the Director of Public Prosecution also wants this particular piece of evidence, this critical piece of evidence, to be excluded from the court. It should not happen at all. Your closing remarks, Ms. Washington. Your closing remarks as it pertains to the direction of this particular case, and how disappointed are you in what you have heard, what you have read, and especially with the gymnastics that we're seeing coming out from the DPP chambers. Your closing remarks, please.
Mark, I certainly hope Ms. Shalimar Ali is watching your program tonight. I'm pretty sure she would try to avoid your program at any cost, but I would hope that at some point she would watch. And, I hope that at some point also she would recognize that her action, what she's portraying to the public by taking the steps that she's taking to unjustifiable request that the magistrate be removed from this case. Like I said before, Mark, I am very, very disappointed. I'm disappointed at the prosecutor. I'm disappointed at DPP's action. But I do hope that the Chancellor, the Honorable Chancellor, will stand up for some sort of justice and deny that request by Ms. Shalimar Ali and allow this case to proceed before the current magistrate. And I do believe the current magistrate will allow justice to prevail in this matter. I do hope at some point also, Mark, that there will be some sort of reforming of the Guyana Police Force, of the DPP, and we will put checks and balances in place that, we wouldn't be seeing this type of situation. We wouldn't be seeing it too much or too often in the future. We don't know, but we just have to keep praying for Guyana. We just have to continue to protest. We have to continue to advocate for changes and hope that at some point things turn around. It takes a turn for the best. I will not give up hope on Guyana, and I will not say I don't care. I will always care about what's happening in the country of my birth. I will always care if there's corruption. And when there's corruption, I will always stand up for what is right and what is just. I will not turn a blind eye. I will not sit down and just allow for this to go by and say, well, if the DPP will do whatever they want to do. No, it's that Guyana is our country, and we have to continue to fight for justice. We have to continue to fight for what is right. We just can't turn our backs and say, oh, we don't care because the PPP doesn't care whether or not they do what is right or what is just. So therefore, the public should just turn a blind eye and allow DPP to do whatever they want, allow the police force to do whatever they want. This is why corruption continues for decades, because we turn a blind eye. We decide that we're going to sit silent and allow it to go on. But if we continue to fight, we continue to speak up, we continue to press, just the way Martin Luther King did in this country to fight for civil rights, to fight for justice for African Americans. We have to continue to do the same for Guyana. Stand up for what is right, continue to preach it, continue to get on programs like this, and continue to speak our truth, continue to encourage the public to, stand up for what is right, to protest, to make noise, to write articles, to say stuff on social media until Guyana decides that, it's time for us to turn around, until we get at some point the right government in place who will decide that the laws need to be changed. So I think we have to continue to fight. We have to continue, despite the face of what we're seeing. We have to continue to press. We have to continue to move until we see at some point things turn around in Guyana. Once again, Mark, I want to say thank you for having me on this show. And as always, it's a pleasure, to be here. I want to say thank you to all of your audience, all of your fans, your listeners who are out there listening to tonight's show. And I want to encourage you again to keep fighting for our Guyana to become the one people, one nation, one destiny, as we know Guyana, or as we hope that Guyana will turn around to be. My name is Shellen Washington. You could see my flyer there. I'm an attorney at law. My office is located at 455 Utica Avenue, Suite 2R in Brooklyn, New York. Some of you have been supporting my practice, supporting my business. I want to say thank you to all of you. I appreciate you, and thank you for the support. It's like I said, it's always a pleasure being here. And, I will continue to speak my truth, and I will continue to press for justice. And once again, thank you for listening in to this program tonight. Thank you so much. And some of you, I saw your comments. I've read some of your comments, and some of your comments were very encouraging and helpful. And I want to thank those fans tonight. All right. And again, once again, it's a pleasure being here, spending my Thursday night with you guys.
Thank you so much, Ms. Washington. Appreciate your time as always. Please be back soon. And for those of you, please, if you have any case, anything, whether it's medical malpractice, personal injuries, divorce, landlord, tenant, whatever it is, give Ms. Washington a call. I think she does even a little bit of immigration matters as well. So please give her a call and give her that support. Competent lawyer, indeed, went to a law school, read good law books, and she understands the law. Thank you so much, Ms. Washington. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, Ms. Washington there for you guys. My name is Mark Benchap. I will be back tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. And just for the Guyana police force, right? If they need, not the Guyana police force, if the court needs a copy of the video, the press conference that the police held concerning Detective Sergeant Bascom and his being a whistleblower, this so-called press conference, I do have a copy of it. And I'm not charging the court. I'm not going to charge the police. I'm going to give it to them free of charge. They can call me anytime. I'm ready to release this video conference that the police held. I'm ready to release it to the court so that we can get some form of justice and all the evidence presented in court so that Mr. Bascom, the Detective Sergeant Bascom, can have a fair trial. We don't want him to be railroaded as what we're seeing. And the perception is that the Director of Public Prosecution does have some ulterior motive or motives. Whatever those ulterior motives are, we don't know as yet. But Ms. Washington did mention that if it is that she has ulterior motives, then what are those ulterior motives? Is it that because of this alleged connection to Azardine Mohammed and his family? And if that's the case, this case is basically entirely connected around a case that concerns Azardine Mohammed and his security guard. And if there is this connection between the DPP and the Mohammed's family, then the obvious question is, why hasn't the DPP recused herself? And why is it every step of the way the Director of Public Prosecution is attempting to stymie the process? Let's go back to what she did to the private criminal charges or cybercrime bullying charges filed against the crime chief, Mr. Blanham, by Mr. Bascom. Guess what? She discontinued that particular charge. And guess what? She didn't like the fact that the magistrate is on to something. The magistrate is asking the special prosecutor to present this videotape, this one that you guys are watching right now. The special prosecutor says that the police force didn't record anything. I mean, should we believe him when we are seeing evidence that could possibly be the contrary of what he said in court? And the question is, did he lie to the magistrate? Has he lied in court? And why is he refusing to take this evidence in court? Why is the DPP attempting to have the magistrate recuse herself from this case, even though there's no proper grounds for that? I'm hoping, and as we all should do, hope and pray that the acting Chancellor of the Judiciary would stand her ground on this matter and allow the magistrate to continue with this matter. Anything outside of that will have people confidence, whatever little confidence they have in the judiciary, will be totally eroded. In any other part of the world that we see this level of perceived, mind you, corruption and favoritism and all manner of things, could you imagine what would have happened to all of the other cases that the DPP said individuals should be charged? We know of a lot of folks who are currently languishing in prison as a result of false recommendations coming from the DPP chambers. Lots of persons languishing in prison. Lots of persons wrongfully charged only in Guyana. And we've got to pray for our country, regardless of what religion you're part of. Whether you're Hindu, namaste. Whether you're Christian, hello, how are you? Or whether you're Muslim, assalamu alaikum. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Something Miss Alimar Haq should know about. And as a practicing Muslim, she should understand and she should know what the Quran says about these sort of things, injustices. We're seeing lots of injustices in Guyana and favoritism. Some of those favoritism coming right out of the chambers of the Director of Public Prosecution. My name is Mark Benchab. I'm out of here until tomorrow, same place, same time. God bless you and continue to pray for that country. We've got to pray for the country, and not only pray for the country, we need to do more than just pray. As the late Congressman remind me, not John Connors, but the late Congressman said, we need some trouble. We need good trouble. And the time has come for Guyana to have good trouble. Who can we depend on for good trouble? Those in the opposition. The question is, are they up to the task? John Lewis, thank you, Trudy Farsi. John Lewis, good trouble. We need good trouble to put the PPP in check, to put the DPP in check, to put GCOM in check. We need good trouble. It is part of our constitutional right to stand up against all forms of injustices against citizens. And we're seeing lots of them right now. Unfortunately, the enemy or the enemies are the police force, the DPP chambers, and the installed PPP regime. Should that be the case? No. Unfortunately, that is what's happening in Guyana. I need to say this, that I don't paint all of them in the judiciary with the same brush. They have some good judges and some good magistrates who need to stand their grounds. And we have some good policemen and women in the Guyana police force who equally need to stand their grounds. My name is Mark Benchab. Until tomorrow, same place, same time. God bless you all. So long.
What is the difference between the ordinary thief and a political thief? Number one, the ordinary thief steals your money, your bag, your watch, and your jewelry, isn't it? But the political thief steals your future, your career, your education, your health, and your business. Number two, the hilarious part is that the ordinary thief will choose whom to rob. But you are the one who choose the political thief to rob you. Because we choose them. We vote them. We blindly say we are not blind. Who is deceiving who? The ridiculous part of the whole issue is that we will fight to defend and protect our belongings from the ordinary thief. Is it not? But we fight each other to defend and protect the political thief. Is that not what we do? Thugs will be fighting themselves to protect those that are stealing our career, stealing our joy, stealing our health, stealing our success. What a shame. What a travesty. It calls for us to think and think deep. The stage we are in as a country is not a stage where you become an onlooker. You have become an onlooker for too long. You must get ready to put your hands to the plow and be part of the process. It's not just about PVC, carry PVC. You must be in the kitchen where it is being determined. You must be there where the decisions are being made. If we are there in our numbers, they cannot outnumber us. But you leave it aloof. Oh, no, it's too dirty. It's a dirty game. And then the dirty guy is getting to the game of play. And you are there not showing up. And when they begin to make the decisions, you will know whether it's a dirty game or not. The result is always dirty on yours. Dirty on your health. Dirty on your business. Dirty on your success and your career. I hope that is stirring up something in you.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.